Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. My name is Jean Gallagher, and we talk with women business owners and explore the importance of the outdoors and maintaining their life balance and understand their journey. And also, I am as always, happy to have the our Healthy Living, Happy Life segment with Denise Stegall. Hey, Denise.
Hello, hello.
And as everyone knows, Denise is an international best-selling author of Healthy Living, Happy Life, a practical path to finding a healthy lifestyle that works for you, and curator at Living Healthy List. And this month's topic is, the topic is 3 keys to successful leadership and why they work.
I know there's 3 of them, so it should be an R, but it's actually one topic.
One topic.
So. I love it. So I love this idea of 3 keys to successful leadership because, as a healthy lifestyle coach, everybody's always thinking, or they meet me and the first thing they go, oh, I know I should eat better. Oh, I know I got to lose weight. Oh, I know. And I'm like, there's so much more to healthy lifestyle and healthy living than one piece. And when we think about success, you and I have talked about perfectionism, we've talked about happiness, we've talked about success, but success as a leader is really a unique topic because people who are leading others, need to be on the top of their game. Not that the rest of us don't, but leaders absolutely need to be at the top of their game to get people to follow them, to get people to respond, and in a positive way. We want leaders or leadership to be people who we can look up to, people that we admire. And so for those people who are in those positions or striving to get into those positions, living a healthy lifestyle is essential. And it's as essential as the experience, the education, the work, all of those pieces.
I'm glad you bring this up because it's a topic that is not talked about a lot, because as you just said, it is, if you're going to be a leader, it is the education and your background and your bio and your LinkedIn profile and your resume. But really, people aren't talking about taking care of yourself first in order to provide the leadership to others. And it's true, if you are in that type of a role or you're striving towards that role, it's exhausting. And it's easy to become run down, and you're not your best self if you're not taking care of yourself.
And it's interesting what you just said. So what you just said, I actually had in my notes to kind of close up with later, but leadership excellence or excellence in leadership begins with self-care and a commitment to a healthy lifestyle. You want people to follow you because, you're vibrant and you're energetic. If, you can be the smartest person in the world and have all of the credentials, but if you're lethargic and you're not exciting to be around, if you're one of those people who walks into the room and kind of like the air gets deflated, no one's going to want to follow you. So I think it's essential that we all understand whether we're striving for those leadership positions or in them, or really striving to be the best leader of our family, our unit, our friends, whatever that may be. Excuse me.
So what is the first of the 3?
Okay, so the first of the 3, and it's not going to be what you think, because I always start with one specific thing, but today I'm changing it up. The first key to successful leadership is regular physical exercise. Inside, outside, even better. Right? Why does it work? Exercise is essential. It is vital. It is like más importante when it comes to obviously maintaining your physical health, but also your mental and emotional health. And I think we forget about those pieces when it comes to exercise. We go to exercise, we go to the gym, we pump iron because we want stronger muscles. We want to look a certain way. But the endorphins that, start to go, we get rolling when we're exercising, I went for a run yesterday outside, and it's starting to get chilly, but we've had a little bit of a break, so I could get outside and run. And beforehand, I was kind of thinking, oh, I got a lot to do and I'm a little stressed out. Forget it. I got in the middle of that run, forgot all about that. Endorphins high, felt good. And when I did get back to my work, it wasn't stressful anymore. I'd kind of worked out the stress and was able to really manage what was stressful or what was stressing me out about it. Because while I was exercising, I was able to kind of really think through the situation.
Quite often the stories that we tell ourselves and we're trying to convince ourselves not to do the exercise are stuff we make up between our ears. And then for me, I play head games with myself to try to get myself out of the head games. So it is, well, if I don't go, how am I going to feel? Well, if I do go, how am I going to feel? And it's kind of ridiculous if we just do it and get it over with. And so we've talked about this piece before in the past and the importance of blocking our calendars. And when you talk about that. Yeah, well then. And blocking your calendars, but also sticking to it. But so one of the challenges of blocking my calendar that I have is I'm most productive in the morning. I'm most productive for exercise and I'm most productive to work. So blocking my calendar and saying, well, my day isn't going to start until this point. I have to adjust to my morning work thinking and practice that in order to stick with the obligation.
Absolutely. And this is the fun piece of, finding what works for you. I like to work out in the morning. I just do. I like to get it kind of like, I hate to say get it done, but that's what gets my day started. I wake up, I do my little meditations in the morning, and then I get my exercise done. In a way, it makes me feel good because I can check that box. I've now gotten an energy boost from exercise, and it actually makes me more excited for the things that I have coming up during the day. And I'm not stressed out about, when am I going to fit in my exercise? Think about CEOs of companies, busy business leaders, world leaders. When are they exercising? They're probably exercising at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning before they go to the office, or say 7 o'clock in the morning before they go to the office. I don't need that. Nobody really needs to work out at 5, though I know a ton of people who do. It's a priority. So it's already in their calendar. And the beautiful thing is, if they're still productive in the mornings, they can be both physically productive and productive at work because they're starting it early enough. There was a class that I used to go to before COVID, and the class didn't start till 9:30. And for me, I didn't really get anything accomplished before the class. And then after the class, by the time I got home and showered, it was like 11:30. So my entire morning was shot.
Yeah.
So morning workouts for busy leaders is really, it's really the only way they can fit it in.
And it is. I know that there's a lot of people that struggle. Maybe they might not be in a management position, or they're working off hours, even in a management position as a leader there. And the challenge is deciding and then acting.
Right. It's kind of what it has to become a non-negotiable. And it's prioritized in the calendar. And again, if somebody's working different hours, obviously they need to find when is their, their morning routine, like what morning routine, when is their exercise most beneficial for them? And then if it's, I always say, if it's in the calendar, it's real. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't happen. Until, there are lots of people that'll say, oh yeah, I've been doing it, I've been doing this at 7 o'clock in the morning for 20 years. It's just a habit. I just don't even have to think about it anymore. Most people aren't there yet. So that's why I love the calendar, like to put it in the calendar.
And so so what are the 3 different areas that will help people motivate themselves to make sure that they make this a priority. So what could they benefit? How would they benefit from having regular exercise?
Ooh, how do you benefit? Okay, how do you benefit? One, boost those energy levels. I mean, most of us kind of wake up like, okay, getting the day. If you're a person who likes to exercise in the afternoon, again, you get that energy boost. Exercise reduces your stress. It just does. People will say to me, oh, but like I'm stressed out. I just have to relax. Exercise is actually relaxing because you're working different muscles. You're not just working this one between your ears. You're actually working your muscles, and while you're doing it, that is actually calming your brain, kind of calming that flight or fight. Hey, I said it right. Piece in your brain. So definitely reducing stress. This is the piece that I love. And for leaders, this is essential. Guess what? For every last one of us, this is absolutely essential. Better focus and cognitive function. We think better. We're more creative. Whatever that means to you. For me, creativity, I was doing something this morning that I hadn't done in a long time. I started writing, choose a word, it's one word, and then write creatively for 6 minutes. I don't know. Somebody said that to me once, and so the 6 minutes stuck in my head. And just writing about that one word, the creativity it's amazing. Like I come up with things like, I know that. It's one of those things that obviously I do, after my workout, and it's amazing how my mind is it's almost like working out is literally working my brain. My little brain's on a treadmill thinking like, I got this great idea. Oh my God. I mean, I literally, when I'm on my treadmill or if I'm on my elliptical, I have to have a pen and paper next to me because that's when ideas come to me. If I don't have a pen and paper, it's out the window.
And gone.
So I think those are really, those are all the reasons to make exercise a non-negotiable part of your day, whether you want to be the leader of a company, the leader of your family, the leader of your church, your community, whatever it may be, or if you just want to be the leader of you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I look forward to number 2 and number 3, and for the successful leaderships, the ways for successful leaderships and how they work. And we'll get to number 2 and number 3. So everybody come on back. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. My name is Jean Gallagher. And today we have a wonderful guest today. And through our regular theme, we talk with women business owners and how they utilize the outdoor for life balance, but also understanding their journey. And I'm really excited to talk with Kimberly. Kimberly Kuden is our guest today. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, Jean. Thanks for having me.
Oh, excited for this conversation. And so Kimberly wears many hats, from being an adjunct professor at Cal Poly. She works with individuals and groups and organizations with her equine assisted learning program, fostering personal growth and compassionate leadership. And she also helps wounded military heroes over their challenges through surfing, as she says, one wave at a time. So there's a lot to unpack. And let's start. So let's start with, and also in addition to that, she owns Wrona's Quality Auto Repair too. So add one more thing to the stack. And number 1, how do you manage it all? We'll get there. But give us a little bit about your background and where things started and how it evolved to where it is today.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll start pretty much at the beginning. I grew up in Las Vegas, and I did not grow up with a very outdoorsy family. My dad was a stockbroker. My mom was a banker. But my grandfather was a cowboy, and I kind of followed in his footsteps with my love of horses. So when I graduated from high school and was choosing a university, I thought I was good at math and wanted to be an engineer. So I chose San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly at San Luis Obispo, because of their engineering program. in combination with their rodeo team was like #1 in the nation at the time in the late 80s. So that was why I picked this place. And here I am. I moved to San Luis Obispo in 90 or something like that, started school, realized that I didn't like math as much as was required to be a good engineer. So I switched to agribusiness because I figured business is kind of a general thing, and agriculture would allow me to take equine classes as electives. So I studied, graduated, followed the advice of my academic advisor, and I interviewed with a local company, a local Southern California multinational agribusiness company, and I was hired on with them. I interviewed with others as well, but for whatever reason, that was the one that felt true to my heart. And I fell in love with the industry. Realized how interesting biology is. And I got to travel a lot, so found out how exciting the world is, and different cultures and different languages. I had studied German. I minored in German, and I did an internship in Germany.
Wow.
So I had the kind of travel bug. And then when I was in my early years working, I was able to spend a lot of time in Latin America. And as I progressed through my career, I was then able to spend more time in like Asia and India and Europe and in many different cultures. And so I was really, really fortunate. Do you have any like questions or thoughts? Because I can like
it's really fascinating, in your ability to integrate travel as well as everything that you're doing. It's an opportunity that not many people have, to be able to be in an industry that you're passionate about, as well as incorporate the travel and everything, the learning of cultures that comes along with that too.
Well, and along with the theme of your whole podcast about the outside, what I loved when I was studying agriculture was that I got to be outside. Cal Poly has a theme of learn by doing. So they have a lot of lab classes where we spent a lot of time outside. I was in machinery management. I learned how to drive a tractor. We had projects where we learned about entrepreneurial and business things, and was able to combine that with horses. So I was in an enterprise project where we had been donated, the school had been donated horses, and we had an opportunity to train those horses and put them to sale.
Wow.
So that kind of gave me a taste of the entrepreneurial bug. And then when I was able to get into industry, and I spent time outside. I've never really spent any time in an office. So I've been really fortunate that way, because that feeds me. And I loved the work because I put myself through college. So there was always that underlying stress of like having the money to pay for rent and blah, blah, blah. And when I started working in industry, I was like, this is so easy. All I have to do is wake up and do what they say, and I don't have to worry about anything. So it was hard work, but I just had no stress. So and then a couple of years into it, by the time I was, I think it was my late 20s, I decided to go back to school and get an MBA. I was dating my first husband at that time. He was in law school. So that was kind of something that we had in common. In the evenings, we were studying. So I was still working, and then I was doing an MBA program in the evenings, and he was in law school. So was able to finish just in time to have my first daughter, and we were married, and I had my first daughter, and then I graduated from a master's program, MBA program, and then shortly after that, I moved over from the field production agriculture side of the business to the commercial side of the business, and into product management, and started learning about the business side. And at the time, the company that I was working for, through a series of mergers and acquisitions, had been bought by Monsanto, which is a major multinational pharmaceutical biotechnology company. Was at the time. It's no longer exists anymore. As I kind of progressed in my career development, I realized that the pressures of quarterly goals and shareholder value created a lot of stress on middle management. And I saw some colleagues go through some really difficult emotional, like nervous breakdowns and so forth. And then at some point, I was traveling a lot, which was very stressful on my marriage. And my ex-husband and I didn't have the tools to like work through those things together. And so it resulted in a divorce. And that was really difficult emotionally. And I had 2 kids, and I just realized that there wasn't really space for that in that environment, in that work environment. And about a year after that, I found myself answering the phone calls to the recruiters that were calling me. So I didn't actively seek to leave the company, but I was open to the idea. And in addition to that, I had reconnected with my college boyfriend, who was super supportive, and very. He's a very different personality in that he's very, trusting and open and adventurous, and let's do it. Come on, it'll be fun. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? And so I was open to new opportunities. I changed companies. I went to work for a Japanese American company, multinational ag company, and at that time I had the opportunity to pursue a PhD. And I was curious about a better way of managing, because I saw the publicly traded corporation approach versus a Japanese privately owned corporation approach. And I'm like, there has to be. I was really very interested.
How were they different?
Well, so the company that I worked for had a very open, like entrepreneurial culture, in that they encouraged people to change jobs every few years and learn something new. And that culture is really interesting, because some of the people that I got close to at the time that did really well in that culture, it was really positive for them. But other people who want more stability, or more, it's really not stability, but like that want
Consistency.
Yeah, it wasn't positive for them. So, like any culture, there are those who fit and those who don't. So there was that. And that, I think, was a positive thing about the Monsanto culture. The part that I didn't like was how important the short-term, like achieving short-term goals was, and the incentive process. It encouraged people to make decisions that I don't think were in the best interest of the organization long-term, or the customers even,
Yeah, and that's really very common in many corporations. And you used an interesting term or words, the shareholder value. And so the shareholder value comes at which is understandable that it needs to happen, but it comes at a price, and it comes at a price for the internal, I call it internal and external customers. So your external customers could be your shareholders, but it also could be the consumers, right? But the internal customers, those are the people inside of the organization. That cost of that and that quality of life in order to hit those metrics. And because you hit those metrics this month, and then next quarter, the metrics are higher. And then next year, the overlay is higher, and so that the stakes are what's needed continue to grow, but what's provided for comes down to the quality of life piece too. At some point we all have to say, I need to jump off this treadmill. How do I do that?
Yeah. And I mean, some people loved the treadmill and thrived, and others didn't. And and
I've been on it.
Yeah. And
it's hard to jump off, but when you do, it's like, whew.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it was more difficult. It was a more difficult decision for me to make, to leave that company, than it was for me to divorce my ex-husband. And the reason for that, as I've like done some, emotional work, is that I felt that the company provided for me and my family. And because, as I said, my relationship, we didn't have the tools to support each other. We didn't have the tools to support each other. We were, I think, too busy trying to figure out how to get our needs met. And so I didn't,
individually versus together.
Exactly. Yeah. And I didn't have that feeling of safety from him as I did from the company, right?
That's interesting. And I'm sure thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure that many people can feel that those same thoughts as well. Yeah, for sure. And all the while, I was lucky enough that I got to spend a lot of time outside with wonderful, grounded, really salt of the earth, brilliant people. And I had my horses, and I had that outlet. And then and then my kids, and they were playing sports and so forth, and I had them, doing things as well in the outdoors. And we lived in the country. I mean, there was a lot of beauty. And then at some point, it just when I was stressed, and my lifestyle took me in a different direction, so that I didn't have the flexibility to do what was needed to be done within the company, there wasn't room for that. And so that was frustrating to me. But then I go to the Japanese company, and that company, well, so the Japanese corporate culture is much more conservative. So the American, at least with these two companies, which, there's some generalizations that you can make with others as well. The American publicly traded company was very much like, let's project what the potential value is, and then let's spend the money with the expectation that we're going to get our return. The Japanese culture is, let's dabble our toe in the water, see if we can make some money at a small scale, and then scale up. Interesting. So much more conservative, right? And much more slow to adopt new ideas and new technology. And so that can be frustrating for someone who wants to go. And it also, the ship turns slowly. The ship turns more slowly, for sure. The ship can turn so fast that people get whiplash on the other boat. Yes. But this one, the ship turns very slowly, right? And you want to get out and start paddling on your own too, So just different perspectives, right? And as I was determining what the subject matter for my dissertation research was, I reached out to industry leaders. So in the ag industry, I reached out to leaders, and I asked, what are the biggest issues facing agriculture today? Interesting.
And this was back in 2016 or 17, I think. And I was expecting to receive answers like, resource management or biotechnology, international trade, whatever, right? What was interesting to me is I did get some of those answers, but 100% of the executives that I asked the question to, 100% of them said millennials.
Really?
In the workforce. Yeah.
Interesting. And here we are.
Exactly. So, so that's what I studied. And as I was learning about millennials and what motivates them, and then then I learned about different generational research, and then I was looking for leadership theories that matched with the generational motivational research that I was doing, and or that I was following, and I found a theory that matched pretty well, and that is complexity leadership theory, which plays on quantum physics. And so, needless to say, I've got very interested in those topics, and spent several years digging into that.
And so how does that play into, and this is part of your leadership program that you've developed, yes? And so what is different in, I don't know if you can take a thesis and squish it into a paragraph, but what did you find, or what is the motivating factor for, and I would think that, so yes, the millennial generation, but I think that also, especially post-COVID, bleeds out into the baby boomers, and it bleeds out into the other cultures as well, I would think, don't you? Or did you not find that?
I did find that. I did find that people are motivated by feeling seen, heard, and understood, more so than by being rewarded financially or otherwise.
Seen, heard, and understood.
Yes.
Yeah. And
so then, fostering the environment to create that is really the key. And I mean, it's much more complex than just that, but you can imagine that trying to create that environment it is actually quite simple, but when you're teasing it apart and understanding why things work the way they work, it is actually complex.
It can be simple to think that to create it, but when you're taking a current structure and changing it to incorporate those values, or incorporating those milestones within the achievement values, that's what becomes very complex, because now you're trying to modify a culture to either accept is the wrong word, but to facilitate a more productive environment with somebody that might not be money motivated or reward motivated, but really wants to have their opinions
validated.
Matter, right? And it's interesting because I see that in my adult children, and knowing that one of them had worked for a larger company and just didn't thrive at all, but doing the same job in the same position, working for a smaller company, because he's able to say, hey, this doesn't make sense, and somebody is listening and taking that information. And of course, he's shown that he's sufficient and proficient in the areas, but they're listening.
Yeah, right.
And it matters. But in even for the baby boomer generation, we all wanted that, but maybe we weren't brave enough to say, I need that, because it is important to know that you're making a difference. You're not just doing this hamster wheel thing to pay the bills. Right.
And the older generations were taught to not push back.
Right.
And the millennials were taught by the older generation. Exactly. And then they don't like it when they get pushback, right? So it's interesting, but that's an interesting dichotomy, the relationships between the generations. But what really motivated me once I finished my PhD research was, then I went back. So I had a competition horse, and he passed away. and during the time I was in school. And so I, obviously I didn't have a lot of time on my hands, so I didn't get another horse. But once I finished my dissertation and I went back to riding, I learned that I was treating the horses the way that I didn't like to be treated.
Wow.
In the workplace.
Wow. That gives me chills.
Which was the birth child of this, consulting program that I have now. That is still kind of in development, but yeah, that led me down a path of work with the equine that has changed my perspective on, competitive equestrian sports and my day-to-day interactions with the horses and my day-to-day interactions with nature and with the outside.
Oh,
I just got back last night from a 3-day equine conference, I guess you could say. They called it a summit, where we were sharing these beliefs and thoughts and how the horses can, and research, and how the horses can teach us about co-regulation and like internal peace and leadership values and everything like that. Yeah.
Can you give just a couple of examples of what sticks out as maybe the larger ones that you saw or you've worked through the development process with, of how the horses have taught you, or the aspects that really stand out?
Well, so first of all, and we go back to like the quantum physics concept, right? So, everything is energy. Okay, so the premise behind quantum physics is that we thought that the atom was the smallest particle until we looked inside an atom and we saw that really an atom is made up of energy. And so everything is made up of energy. So frequencies and vibrations affect material things, including ourselves. And co-regulation is when your vibrations match another vibration, right? So if we look at a horse's heart is much bigger than a human heart. And the vibration that comes off of a horse's heart is more impactful on us than even, between two people. So there is a healing, a calming effect of just being around the horses, because we will entrain to them. And when we're really, really good through a lot of practice, we can entrain them to us. So sometimes when a horse is really upset, we can help them entrain to us and calm down.
And
but
vice versa.
In general, like the equine therapy stuff is all about us entraining to them, right? So so can you imagine if you have the internal capacity to control your emotions, control your heartbeat, control your internal vibrations, and how that can be helpful when you're having a difficult conversation in the workplace, when you're negotiating, when you're giving someone feedback, when you're receiving feedback,
even more so.
Yeah.
And how you react to that.
And as you mature in your ability to understand those things, then you can also have a positive impact on how another being feels about themselves. In other words, attunement, or feeling seen, heard, and understood.
Wow.
So I think those were the very early learnings that blew my mind in getting into this kind of research and this kind of work.
That's really fascinating. And, it would be nice to dig into that a little bit deeper. I think that it would be fun to do an additional conversation just around that. So let's put that on the table. So, because I'd like to dive deeper into that, because there's so much that we can all learn from your studies, but there's so much that we can learn from that process and how to assimilate that into our lives.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah. So, because I feel like we're just touching the surface here, but there's so much to talk about. So I'd really like to get back together to delve further into that if we can.
Okay.
Yeah. And so now what brought you to Cal Poly as a professor? And what I really like about this story is that it is that entrepreneurial thought process, and you've been able to kind of write your own way or create a program, which is not normal within that type of a structure, correct?
Well, so the next phase of this journey, as I'm learning about these ways to interact with the animals and practicing in my daily job, right? Then my husband, my current husband, who was my college sweetheart, right? He was diagnosed with cancer. And so he survived and was able to eradicate the tumor. He had neck cancer, tonsil cancer, and through that process, that life-changing process, we decided, if not now, when? And I didn't want to be traveling as much, and I didn't want to be, I wanted more control over my day. So we began looking for a local business to buy. And that's how we became auto repair shop owners. Serendipitously, a friend invited my husband to coffee and was telling him that he was selling his business. And so one thing led to another, we bought it, and I quit my job. And that's been a wonderful process, because like agriculture, the auto repair industry is filled with very grounded, humble people. And I love that. I have some friends that are in different industries that I wouldn't say are filled with those types of people. We won't say anymore. But it's been fantastic. And then 6 or 8 months later, we had an opportunity to buy the gym. We were going to a private gym after COVID, and all the gyms were shut down. There was a private gym that my husband had been a member of because he trained there when he was a teenager, and then the owner passed away, and so we have a couple of partners and bought that gym from the family. So there we have that. We also have apartments in San Luis Obispo, so we manage the apartments as well, rentals. And then one day I had put my resume in with Cal Poly at some point after I finished my PhD, just thinking, I could teach on the side. And during COVID, when there was remote classes, I thought, I can do that while I'm traveling and this and that. But I never got any response. And somehow we purchased this business, and then we purchased the second business, and then I get a phone call that says, hey,
because you have extra time.
Exactly. So and I haven't even talked about the work with the nonprofit yet. My husband's best friend is a founder of a nonprofit called Operation Surf, and that is also surf therapy, outdoor nature therapy. We take wounded, visible and invisible wounds, injuries of veterans, U.S. veterans and our allies. and we use the carrot of surfing to teach them a non-pharmaceutical healthy therapeutic ways of living and dealing with stress and trauma. Yeah.
How do you see that transformation for them?
Well, it's so having tools to handle the stresses. I think it's what I've learned is that having tools to deal with emotional challenges is very, very important. And, you know, we do have a lot of over-medicated people. I'm not saying that, you know, that medication is not necessary ever, but I think we tend to
it's the easy answer.
Well, we think it's the easy answer.
We think it's the easy answer. Exactly. Right. And it's much simpler to go to the doctor and get a prescription and think that it's supposed to fix everything.
Right.
But we're not teaching the skills and that to help overcome the symptoms.
Right. And most pharmaceuticals have side effects. So then we have to deal with that. Right. So yeah. So it's super valuable. And then I see, well, regular people have stresses that we don't have the tools to deal with. Like, you know, so yeah, I think there's application there. And Van and Amanda, who the founder and chief executive officer, they also run a private school where they're expanding their private school to people, you know, that are like regular people that don't have, you know, deep trauma or PTSD, and they just are trying to learn how to deal with the stresses of every day.
Some of this goes back to what you've already talked about, right? Where you were talking about your leadership theory and being seen, heard, and understood. And for people that are in trauma or people that have, even with medical issues or whatever it happens to be, the medical industry or the medical system doesn't give space for those three attributes.
Well, fortunately, I believe there's a paradigm shift happening. And I believe that it's coming. I mean, even even now, there's more alternative medicine, functional medicine, conventional medicine doctors that understand the value of, you know, emotional support along with pharmacology and everything else, right? So I am really encouraged that there is a paradigm shift happening. I wish it was happening faster. Sure. But yeah, it's not a lost cause.
No, that's good.
We're not a lost cause, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And it is a matter of people understanding what their options are, and for people to be comfortable thinking outside of the normal box also. So it is a two-sided monster in a way. You know, are those alternative services offered, but are people actually open to consider those alternative resources, and how do they find them? And so hopefully the two will continue to meet more aggressively and more often than they have in the past.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about the outdoors and the surfing piece, right? And it's not just the function of surfing, it's the salt water and the salt air, and just giving an opportunity to force to be present.
Yeah. The rhythm of the waves, the unpredictability of the ocean, and the need to give up control is a huge therapeutic, has a huge therapeutic effect. Same thing with the horses, right? You've got this huge, a very powerful animal that you have to trust is not going to hurt you, right? And yeah, same thing with the ocean. I mean, they're different, but
it's a true analogy. You have to be present, and you have to be willing to, like you said, give up control and allow, whether it's the water and the waves or this beautiful animal that's underneath you, to have a say in what's going to happen.
Exactly.
And figure out at what point in time you have to exhibit a little control of the situation.
Right.
And how you anticipate that.
Yeah, I mean, you can only control yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that tends to give a better outcome. I'm not trying to control the ocean. I'm not trying to control the horse.
Mm-hmm.
And I can only control myself so that I respond in a positive way. And what tends to happen is that a more positive outcome.
Mm-hmm.
But that takes faith, so whether you're religious or spiritual or anything, there is faith required in making that leap.
And so how do you, because you have more than one ball in the air, there's like 20. What do you do for yourself, Kimberly, to make sure that you are taking care of yourself in order to take care of others?
So I can say that it's a challenge. I've learned, and it's been a journey. Mm-hmm. For sure. Right now, I have developed some tools. So at this very moment, we have a lot of what many people would consider negative things happening. And I feel that I have tools to help manage. And because I have these tools, I have the energy every day to deal with what is on my plate. So this is my first quarter teaching at the university, and I'm teaching a class that hasn't been taught in over 4 years. So developing the curriculum. Mm-hmm. And we've got a business that we're in the process of expanding and growing. My husband has recently just been diagnosed with lung cancer. That is, his tonsil cancer spread to his lungs. Our dog died 2 weeks ago, which was a shock because he's was a healthy 6-year-old dog, Australian Shepherd. That was a shock, and we've got an employee that worked for us for 2 weeks, and he's now suing us. We're not entirely sure, but I suspect for wrongful termination. And last Wednesday, one of our apartments caught on fire. And wow. So, needless to say, there's a lot of really challenging things, trying to manage, the business and the apartments and the insurance and the legal team and the emotions and the doctors. And I can say that I have to feed my horses every day. Mm-hmm. So I spend a little bit of time just connecting with them. Mm-hmm. My husband is in recovery. He's a recovering alcoholic drug addict. Mm-hmm. And he's got 15 years of sobriety, and he's heavily involved in Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12-step program. And I have had my exposure to the 12-step program through Al-Anon. Mm-hmm. We have a couples group of couples who are all involved in some sort of a 12-step program that we meet with every other Saturday. My husband has a daily practice of prayer, and he goes to meetings every day. Mm-hmm. And I have I like to call him my magical fairy. He is officially a chiropractor, but he's not like any chiropractor I've ever met. He doesn't do the cracking. He works with breathing and your nervous system, and making sure that the energy is flowing through your nervous system. So mm-hmm. I see him a couple of times a week, and I can tell you that through these little things that pepper my week, I can sleep at night. Mm-hmm. And that sleep at night helps me have the energy to stay focused and just do one thing at a time and stay present in the moment and not get too caught up in what's coming next. And
what I hear that I think is incredibly important, and you're talking about tools and resources, right? People need to realize that they shouldn't have to be alone to go through whatever they're going through, and having a support system outside of your family, and a support system that is not emotionally engaged with exactly what's going on with you, right? And having those fresh looks, or somebody that can be that can look at your situation from the outside looking in rather than the inside looking out, and having resources to remind yourself of how important you are.
yeah, I think over the weekend, one of the exercises that I did was one of the speakers at the conference, said something about, who is your team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I did a little mental exercise on who is my team? Who do I go to that's going to tell me the truth even when I don't want to hear it? Yeah. And yeah, I've got a great team. And also having a relationship with yourself, and being okay with being alone with yourself and your thoughts is huge.
Yeah, yes, because alone with your thoughts and allowing them to go places that they shouldn't go is also important to pull back.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about a lot of things, and a lot of things that stand out are having a team, having the resources and people to fall into, and understanding if you're a person that needs to be seen, heard, and understood, to acknowledge that, and then also find areas that can support that thought process. And I really want to thank you too for sharing all of your stories with us. And I would like to have a section 2 and really take a deeper dive into the leadership piece and understanding how that works. If that's something that you would be interested in, I would love to share that with the listeners.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. And as we leave this today, tell us how people can get in touch with you, whether it's for the military and with the surfing program, or for your equine program, or if you're in the San Luis Obispo area, great place to get your car fixed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the culture that we've developed at Wrona's Quality Auto Repair in San Luis Obispo is that of collaboration. And, it feels like a family. There's a lot of joy. Mm-hmm. And so we have very professional, highly skilled team of people working on the vehicles. But beyond that, there is joy, and we try to share that joy with our clients as well. Mm-hmm. So you can reach me. You can always Google Kimberly Kuden, and my LinkedIn profile will come up. My Facebook profile will come up. KudenEnterprises.com is the consulting business, I guess you would call it. I'm not sure exactly what to call it. Experience, retreats, whatever. Wrona's, WRONAS.com is the auto repair shop.
Kimberly, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I really appreciate your time today and sharing your story. And I look forward to part 2.
Thank you. Thank you so much.